Hey everybody, and welcome to another Star Citizen video. My name is Scary Spikes, and today we're going to be talking about the brand new Anvil Centurion, or as I like to call it, the Quad Cannon. Before we get started though, a huge thanks to all of my wonderful patrons and channel members for making videos like these possible. If you enjoy my content and you'd like to help support me directly, you can follow the link to my Patreon in the description below, or click the blue join button to become a channel member right here on YouTube, which is right next to that red subscribe button under the video. Thank you so much for your support, and let's go ahead and get started with this video. Alright, so first and foremost, as with all of my other guides, we're going to go ahead and step outside and have a look at the exterior of the vehicle first, noting some of its exterior features, and then of course we're going to head back inside for a nice detailed tour, including taking a look at the cockpit, followed by some basic upgrades over on Urkel.games. There are timestamps down in the description below as well as in the seek bar, so if you want to jump to any part of the video, you can definitely do that with ease. Alright, so as the sun sets on Magda here, let's quickly have a look at the exterior before heading inside. The exterior is very interesting if you've seen some of the other Atlas platform vehicles like the Ballista or the Spartan that came out last year during the IAE. This is going to look very similar. It is a little bit more similar to the Ballista in appearance and in functionality in that it is mostly an anti-air vehicle, but this one is a little bit more close range, as the Ballista was a little bit more long range, but they do work very nicely together. One thing that you'll notice right at the very front here before we start moving around to the side of the vehicle is that we have some supports that are actually lifting the vehicle off the ground. We have two of these in the front. We have another two that are going to be right here in the middle, and then towards the rear we have another pair yet. So this is going to give you an extremely stable firing platform, both for the main guns as well as for the pilot activated guns, which again we'll go over in more detail in just a little bit. And yeah, it's going to really give you a lot more accuracy and take the terrain mostly out of the equation so that you don't have to worry about, getting buffeted by winds and things like that. You're going to be very, very stable and able to shoot very accurately from your position. Now, we've got the C2 Hercules there. That is, of course, the IAE Best in Show edition with the blue skin there. I love that thing. If you haven't seen my C2 video, by the way, go check it out. I'll link it in the top right. And also, if you haven't seen the previous video, that would be a great one to check out as well, because we were talking about all of the awesome new features in 3.17.2. If you haven't had a look at that one just yet, and you are a returning player to 3.17.2, or you're a brand new player, make sure to go and check those out. Check that video out, rather. It'll give you a lot of information about all the new features that we have in the current patch, which is honestly feeling a little bit more like a full-featured patch versus a 0.2 or a 0.1 patch. That being said, though, I digress. Let's go ahead and have a look at the rest of this vehicle on the outside. We've got a pair of headlights flanking the glass on the front cockpit. Again, this is not going to be very different from the Ballista or the Spartan from before. And then, of course, we have a very rugged platform for traversing any kind of rugged terrain. We've got two sets of wheels on the front, and then we've got two sets of wheels on the back. It's going to be 8 wheels in total. We've got the main ingress and egress point right here, and as you can see, we've got just a very short cab because we've got the main the main armament on the back, rather, and then we do have the pilot-controlled weapon on the top. Now, the pilot-controlled weapon is going to be a pair of size 3 attrition repeaters, and then we've got a set of 4 CF447 Rhino laser repeaters up top, which is really, really nice to have, because of course you're going to be doing some decent damage with size 4s. It's basically like a constellation on the ground. Opening the back here on the rear end, giggity, we have a pair of coolers, and of course you can make any changes that you want here, but honestly I wouldn't really recommend it. That'll be reflected once we take a look at the Urkel.games website as we upgrade this a little bit. We'll be upgrading the weapons really, but not much other than that. Now, moving over to the other side here, this is going to be the starboard side. We can see very, very similar features as compared with the port side, with the exception, of course, that we have a little thing here blocking the ladder. And from what I understand, this is going to be a feature that will be expanded on in the future, as we have heard the same will be true of the Spartan as well, and possibly also the Ballista, where we'll be able to climb on top of these things, which will definitely allow us to have a little bit more fun depending on the situation. But that's going to be the exterior tour, nice and quick for this one. I hope you enjoyed it, and we're going to step inside now and have a look. We've got a nice big headlight over here as well. I'm not sure if I talked about that. We've got some headlights on the front, but now as the sun is setting here on Magda. We've got a little bit better illumination there. So we've got lights from the side and from the front, which looks really, really nice. So let's go ahead and head inside, and we'll do a little tour of the interior, including the cockpit and all of the interior features. Alright, so let's begin the interior tour by having a look at the cockpit, and there's going to be some likes and dislikes here from my end, and there are ones that are very similar to that of the Spartan when I reviewed that. If you haven't seen that video, by the way, make sure to go check that out. I'll leave a link for it in the top right-hand corner of the screen in the form of a card. Now, there's going to be, like I said, a couple of likes and dislikes. One of the things that I do like is that we do have a lot of vertical viewing angles here, but we don't have much on the horizontal side, and that is one thing that I dislike. I do wish that we had some more windows, one here and maybe one over here, to make things a little bit easier. And that this thing is a little girthy and a little long, giggity, and so sometimes when you're trying to get this thing into the back of a ship, it's going to be a little bit challenging doing it from the interior unless you've done it before a couple of times and you've gotten used to it. So definitely lining up and getting through difficult, tight situations, having an extra window on either side would have definitely helped. But again, it's not a huge deal, and it is not a deal breaker for me. Now on the front here, we can see that we have a pair of MFDs over on the left, and over on the right, we have some in the middle as well. And in the center of that, we have a nice big 2D radar. We also have a nice big steering wheel. This is pretty cool. They've done a great job actually modeling this, so I do like seeing that. And then, of course, we do have our pedals down below. We have a nice red glow coming from the bottom of the dash here, and then, of course, we've got some basic controls. Now, what's really cool is as we're looking around here, we do actually have access to the top turret without actually pressing anything. You can get into the turret explicitly by holding F and then clicking on Enter Remote Turret, and then at this point, you know, you've got your turret controls here, and you're able to pretty much look everywhere. This does articulate all the way around, it seems, but it does kind of come up a little bit around the rear armament, which is completely understandable as you don't want to be nicking any of your own vehicle as you're shooting. But this is nice because when the gunner's busy doing his work, the pilot can jump in here to help. Now, I would imagine this is probably a little bit more useful against stuff on the ground, as we've only got a pair of size 3 attritions here, but it can also help against the air, so that is a nice bit of utility to have. Now, of course, once you're inside, you can still use it without going explicitly into that view, but you are going to be limited to the areas that you can see. So, for example, if we're looking around the right-hand side here, we can see that we pretty much stop shooting as soon as we go into the area that we cannot see. So, again, maybe having that window here would be able to expand that view just a little bit and help in that regard as well. But anyway, it's nice to have a size 3 gun up there. I should say 2 size 3 guns, because there's a pair of them, and definitely some good utility to have. Now let's go ahead and step out, but not before showing you how to retract the mechanism that keeps you rock solid while you're shooting enemies in the air to smithereens. That is, of course, going to be this thing right here that says retract. If you click on that, as you can see, that will retract and the legs will come up and bring you back down on your wheels. Of course, the opposite is true. If you extend or deploy, in this case, as we can see, that will deploy again and it'll lift you off your wheels, providing you once again with a very steady platform upon which you can use to fire at your enemies. So very, very nice to have that. I think it would be really cool if we had an option to do that on the exterior as well. Do let me know if I'm wrong, and if that option exists. I couldn't find it on the exterior. But let's go ahead and continue the interior tour here while we look at some of the other features on this amazing little vehicle. So one of the things that I'm going to talk about here that I really like inside of this vehicle and many other ships in Star Citizen is the light switch. And before you say anything, I know it's just a light switch, but hear me out. This is one thing that we do every single day. You get up, you go to the bathroom, you want to brush your teeth. Well, you need some light, right? So you flick the light switch, the light comes on, everything is expected, but it's something that you do every single day. It's your muscle memory that does that, and your expectation of the lights coming on is just something natural that you've gotten used to over time. Having something like this implemented in the game really makes a huge difference, at least for me. It gives the environment that I'm in a lived-in feeling, and it makes it feel a little bit more like home, which is kind of nice. So having a little bit of control over the interior of your vehicle, I think is definitely a really nice touch, and I'm really glad that they start to implement this a little bit more in the new vehicles that come out. I was really excited about this in the Redeemer, then in the Hercules, and then pretty much in everything else that it was implemented in after that. So having this is great, and you can certainly control your lighting here to fit your mood, and potentially even as a tactical decision to go completely dark so that you can set up in the hills somewhere and ambush some unsuspecting fighters. So this is definitely really cool. I know I spent a lot of time talking about a light switch, but hey, it really makes a big difference to me, and I think that little things like this need to be called out because they really do make a big difference for us as players, and it's one thing that, well, we really don't notice all that much because we just kind of do it automatically, and the developers don't get enough thanks for thinking about the things that we do every day in real life that we wish we could do in the game. So now this is one of those things, and it's awesome. Let's go ahead and move on to inventory, and this is pretty cool. We've got a little button here that we can press, and that's going to give us access to our inventory. Of course, you can do this anywhere in the vehicle and anywhere in any other ship in the game simply by pressing I. This is very easy and allows you to get anything in and out of your ship. Now, the only other thing that I would like to see, of course, is shared inventory space, which I figure it's probably coming at some point down the road, down the horizon, but that's definitely one thing that I'm really looking forward to, is being able to put a gun into my locker here and having a buddy of mine pick it up, just the same as if I were to put it into the physical gun locker right beside the storage area. Speaking of that, we've got 2 rifle-sized lockers available here, and presumably one for the pilot and one for the gunner. So that's really nice to have that in the event that you need to step out and take care of business personally, you know what I mean? And moving on, we do have the main ingress and egress point here. We do also have some lighting back here, which can be controlled under the open button here with these 2 buttons there. We can, of course, press the open button. That is going to open up the side door. This is going to be on the port side, which of course makes sense. But you should know that if you have the Spartan, you're going to have additional doors. Obviously, that's a troop transport and not a weaponized vehicle per se, at least not in its primary role. So in the Spartan, yes, you do have another one on the starboard side, and you do have an exit door in the rear. But because we've only got a half cab here as a result of having the weapon on the back of this vehicle, we only have the 1 ingress and egress point here, which is absolutely fine. Now, we've got the main gunner seat here in the back, so you can have your friends sit back here. We do have a couple of nice little screens that come out, and if you don't have power already, you can simply hold F and press the left mouse button to where it says power on, and that will power everything up for you. Then, of course, you can also enter the remote turret thusly, and you can use all of the standard turret controls, including Q to enter relative mode, left mouse button to fire, B for Bravo to access the staggered mode, and so on. This is pretty cool. It does have a pretty good range, and this is going to be obviously 4 size 4 weapons, so they are going to be doing some solid damage, and certainly something to be reckoned with if you happen to be a small fighter flying up above. There's going to be a couple more things to look at here during the interior tour, so let's go ahead and get through those quickly. We've got a sort of compartment on here. Now, this is a little bit confusing because over here it's a little dark, but you can see it just says keep clear of loading mechanism, making us think that there's some kind of loading mechanism here for maybe batteries or power cells or some kind of maybe ballistic ammunition for eventually if we change out the guns at the top. But really, it's just the power plant. There's a button down here that you can press, and there you go. There's the power plant there. We do have the rest of the size 0 components available here as well. So shield generators and so on are going to be here for you as well. So that is where you can access that. We've got a fire extinguisher right here in the middle, and then that's pretty much it for the interior tour. All right, everybody, so let's go ahead and get started on Urkel.games. There will be links in the description if you want to follow along. I'll have a link for the original as well as my build, so feel free to do so, and feel free to share your own with us down in the comments as well as in Discord. Now, a little disclaimer, as always, before we get started, this is just my opinion, so take everything that I say with a grain of salt. This is just something that I choose to do for myself. It is not necessarily the best on paper, nor might it be the best for you, so keep that in mind, and just know that I don't stat peep and I'm not a stat nerd, so picking something out that is best on paper in my opinion and then recommending it to somebody else might not necessarily make sense because it might not coincide very well or translate well to how they use it in their own use case. So that being said, like I said, take everything I say with a grain of salt and know that it's okay to have a difference of opinion. Let's go ahead and get started first of all with the weapons, and there's not going to be a whole lot of changes here. This is very, very arbitrary, to be honest with you. We're going to go ahead and change the attrition 3 here to the CF337 Panther laser repeater. This is going to be for the pilot controlled weapons. This is a pair of weapons. As you can see here, we've got the remote turret on the top, and yeah, negligible difference. There's pretty much no difference at all there with respect to the DPS at least. So we're going to go ahead and move on. And these are rhinos. I really like the rhinos. There's basically 4 of them here, which if you think about it, you've got a parked constellation that's able to basically hit anything in a 360-degree radius within a couple of kilometers, which is pretty dope. I think this is actually really cool. These are really, really strong. Now, you can put other weapons here. You can put ballistics, although the ballistics are not doing that well this patch, so I probably wouldn't recommend those. And I wouldn't recommend going to laser cannons, since still in the same patch like in 317.1 and 317 before it, basically the scaling of laser cannons below level 5 or below size 5 is not fantastic. So they will start to scale well and do better damage at size 5 and above when compared to size 5 laser repeaters, for instance. But at size 4 and below, it's not really enough of a difference, if any at all. And so, in my opinion, this is what I like to do. I just like to keep anything that is size 4 and below in a configuration of laser repeater, and then anything size 5 and above, I go to laser cannons. So again, keep that in mind, that this is for this particular patch, and it's also for my use case. If you're watching this in the future, that may have changed, and so if that's the case, maybe leave a comment down below letting us know. All right, we're going to move on to the shields and the power plants, and the reason why we're doing both is because we're not really going to touch both. They're size 0, and honestly, again, the benefit is really going to be very negligible, if any at all, because it's a ground vehicle, right? There's just so many things that can kill us. Our shields and our health pool as a ground vehicle is obviously much lower than the majority of any kind of ship that would be about our size or larger. And so for that reason, it just doesn't really matter. You're not really going to gain that much more survivability by getting a slightly better shield. And honestly, it's just going to save you money, which after the recent wipe is something we can all get behind, I'm sure. What we are going to be changing just a little bit, and again, this is just for me. You don't have to do this. In fact, I would recommend, if you're a brand new player and you have a Centurion, that you really shouldn't do anything to it. Play around with it and see if you like it first, and then maybe upgrade it if you really want to upgrade it, just for the arbitrary sake of upgrades. But I am going to go ahead and choose something different for the Frost Stars here. We have 214k cooling per second, and I don't imagine that these are going to have any issues cooling the guns on the vehicle, although I couldn't test firing both sets of guns at exactly the same time for prolonged periods, but it seems like, again, the differences would probably be very negligible. If you must upgrade, though, I would certainly recommend the Ultra Flow up here. We've got a really good rate of cooling, but also the power request time is very reasonable. So we're going to go ahead and select that. Again, this is just for my needs, and your needs may differ, and that's totally okay. Finally, we're going to move on to the paints here, and again, you can choose whatever you like here. This is, again, I wouldn't say arbitrary, but it's certainly a personal choice. So if you do have one of the paints available, just note that one of the 3 paints is only available to concierge members. If you don't know what concierge is, by the way, stay tuned for next week's video. But if you need one of those and you're watching this video after the fact, and even if you are concierge and you just missed out or you forgot about it, just let me know in Discord, and I'm sure I'll have a bunch of them available for you in buyback. And that also goes for the 120-month insurance version of the vehicle itself. So if you're watching this and it's for some reason no longer available, just hit me up in Discord, and I'm sure I'll have some extras for you. Well, that's going to do it for me, everybody. Thank you so very much for watching. I hope you found the video helpful and enjoyable. And if you did, you know what? You can help me in an absolutely huge, mammoth way by just remembering to like the video and sharing it with your friends and communities. And if you're not already, become a subscriber with notifications turned on so you don't miss any of my weekly uploads in the future. If you really want to go above and beyond and really help me out, though, you can become a patron by using the link in the description below. There's a lot of really cool perks and benefits that are waiting for you there, including ad-free, downloadable versions with no intros of my videos, which you can watch offline at any time. That's at the $10 level or above. And regardless of how you choose to support me, just know that I'm really, really grateful for your support and for watching these videos. It really makes me smile and makes my day, and I really enjoy making these videos for you guys. So thank you so much for all of your support, and I hope to see you in the next video.